We're recording? Yes, we are. So, welcome. I haven't posted in a while. And let's just get straight on to this BS. Yes, I also have commented on this. And, the owner gave me a false reply, so let's go.
Convicted felon Donald Trump has already
Convicted. Yeah, that was a lie made up by Joe Biden, by the way.
Gone down in history as the oldest presidential candidate in American history at over 78 years old. So today we wanted to take an unbiased look at Donald Trump's full record on LGBTQ rights, including the good and the bad.
Also, it's recorded by Mosbian. It's on Google Play if you want to do stuff like this, but you have a mobile device, can't find screen recorder, so yeah. Anyways,
in our previous episode, we took an unbiased look at Kamala Harris, how she has always been a fierce ally of the LGBTQ community and kept her
and a fierce danger to the kids on the streets that want to get into having hair.
Promises to make things better. In a future episode, we plan to cover
also, I'm probably gonna get doxxed for this, let's be honest.
The even bigger homophobe, RFK Jr. But this week, we're focusing on the half-man, half-orange spray tan, Donald Trump. Because last week, my sister relentlessly shared an opinion piece calling Trump an ally of our community to all of my friends and coworkers. She said we should stick to the facts. So, much like Donald Trump, she has opinions, and much like CBS.
Also, this is fair use. Well, trying to be, because, I can't really cut things. So, because I'm a kid. And I don't have my face in the corner, so that has to be something. Also, I commentated like a lot in the beginning anyway, so we're already in 2 fucking minutes in this video. Not the video I'm watching.
Pharmacy, I brought receipts. But just to make this more fun for the rest of us, because let's face it, otherwise this is a homophobic mess of a man, let's make it a game. Donald Trump, you're the only contestant on ally or Nazi.
Has this gone too far? Skunk water sprayed on worshippers near Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Oh, here we are. This is convenient. Anyways, my thoughts on the Israeli genocide right now, not good. We need to return Israel to the blast the Russians gave them. Just saying.
Donald Trump, you're the only contestant on ally or Nazi. And look, even his vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, not related in any way to
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
You know, the guy that posted to his own Twitter page a photo of him buying Nazi merchandise? J.D. Vance called Trump Hitler 2.0, and around here we call J.D. Vance Himmler. But trust me, it's way more fun if you play along with their delusions for a second, so let's play.
See, he said delusions, so they're false. They're false. See? Or they could just be in sarcasm of us saying the truth.
Trump supporters will point out, rightfully so, that in 2016, Trump was the first Republican candidate to ever mention LGBTQ rights in his convention speech. And to our surprise, he got a round of applause back then at the RNC. But also on that stage was his vice presidential pick, Mike Pence, who is a strong supporter of conversion therapy and a member of the Heritage Foundation, which wrote the Project 2025 manifesto. But keep in mind, Trump's audience also gave him a round of applause after he told them he could murder someone on Fifth Avenue and they would still support him. They cheered when he called John McCain a...
Also, I have no idea what Project 2025 is. So, this is completely coming from a kid. Yes, a kid. A kid that doubts that gender-affirming care is good. One of the smartest kids, I guess, in this time. So, but I got too far in myself in politics. Well, by watching anti-woke videos or some. But okay.
loser for being a prisoner of war. They cheered when he said Ivanka, his own daughter, has a quote, very nice figure. If she weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. So his audience will literally applaud anything. And while he mentioned LGBTQ rights in that speech, he also hired someone who wants to put gays in camps to push us to suicide. And that sounds more like a Nazi than an ally. But I said this would be
That would be the person who wants to put you in camps, not Trump himself. To be honest, he probably didn't know either way.
biased. So let's ask the man himself what he thinks about gay marriage.
Gay marriage, what do you say?
I'm against gay marriage.
That wasn't the answer we were looking for, Donald. Want to try again?
Gay marriage?
I am not in favor of gay marriage.
You sort of hesitate when you say that.
No, I'm not. No.
Any doubt or any...
No. I'm just not in favor of gay marriage. I live in New York. New York is a place with lots of gays, and I think it's great. But I'm not in favor of gay marriage.
Gay marriage.
So we're not in favor of it between someone wanting to execute all that isn't his race or that isn't, LGBTQ. Kind of a stretch that would break you in half and your gallbladder will spill out.
I am traditional. I am for traditional, and it's a changing format. But I am very much for traditional.
Wrong again. Want to try one more time?
Let's talk about same-sex marriage. You said a few years ago that you were evolving on that issue. Where are you?
I'm traditional marriage. It is changing rapidly.
But what do you say to a lesbian or a gay man who are married and say...
I really don't say anything. I mean, I'm just, Jake, I'm for traditional marriage.
Okay, but how does he feel about the Supreme Court?
How does that land him another point for Nazi? How does not saying anything count for this? Pretty stupid.
Ruling on gay marriage.
Also, by the way, LGBTQ people are the ones who would agree to this. No words against this, by the way.
But just to button this up very quickly, sir, are you saying that if you become president, you might try to appoint justices to overrule the...
Oh, wait. Comment section time. Also, by the way, this is my comment. Yes. Oh no, this guy isn't trying to say something bad about these guys. Oh no. Is it because they're trans? Better be. I don't know what to say about the one by Bumblebee Productions 1673. Also, shout out for them for being stupid. It's a creepy you don't think I'm going to be treated as a human anymore. You were never treated as a human. You were treated as a god. Such how furries are treated as humans and not actual animals. Of elections when he gets back. I don't remember any of that. Salisbury steak sucked, so he kind of grilled her very badly. No, didn't do it at all. Yo, they say most disgusting than the story. You mean Joe Biden? Wait, we're already 9.
Decision on same-sex marriage?
I would strongly consider that, yes.
So close, but maybe he changed over the years and got better on this.
But a majority of Americans now support the idea of gay marriage. Wouldn't it be divisive to try to
It has really been determined, and we will see what happens. We're going to look at judges. They've got to be great judges.
Also on a small channel, let's check subscribers. There's a lot of subscribers. They're probably gonna copyright strike me for being right.
They've got to be conservative judges. We're going to see how they stand depending on what their views are. But that would be my preference.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Where do you want them to stand?
I would prefer that they're standing.
So if you want me to skip through this, I ain't. Because they're just going to... Oh, you skip through stuff, you know, that's Nazi. Don't lie about that.
But we'll see what happens. It depends on the judge.
And how does that move us towards equality for gays and lesbians?
Well, I think what will happen is, and look, George, very simple. We're going to bring our country together. We're going to unify our country. We're going to do whatever we have to do.
Okay, so Donald Trump is strongly against gay marriage. How does he feel about transgender people and their right to express their gender identity according to freedom of speech?
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop
Oh no, he's counting up the false accusations. Also, by the way, it is kind of child abuse to remove their genitalia.
Chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual...
By the way, anytime he mentions anything about banning gender-affirming care, is it going to be a Nazi point somehow when the gender-affirming care isn't child-affirming? It's child-abusing.
Mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers.
Also, thank God, since I'm talking, that YouTube will not allow comments. Hopefully this doesn't get taken down by YouTube, because, you know, YouTube is full. A lot of these people think this, and they calling out the BS chemically triggers them. and wants them to immediately want to kill me or something. I don't know, but let's just get back.
And celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be...
So him saying that parents not being forced to ruin their child's mental state is Nazi. Yeah, okay, I totally trust you and don't totally want you killed.
Telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end.
So no. Okay, so Trump is supposedly a Nazi for one. That's liking gay age red much, and two, allowing parents to not be forced to and to be Ted. There we go. Two so far. We're both being.
Thank you very much.
But what does Donald Trump think about the Heritage Foundation itself? The far-right extremist hate
Teach ourselves itself got us about 38 points in total for being a Nazi somehow.
group that wrote the 920-page manifesto.
Oh, let me just draw this guy real quick. I'm just drawing bones because he's definitely actually malnourished from that chin of his. gonna look garbage, but this guy is typically garbage anyway, so. Let's just add that for the brow. Little darkness right here, he probably colored that in too, so. Stinky. Stinky LGBTQ REA plus guy. Stink lines, stink lines, stink lines, stink lines. Fly body, fly body, fly body, fly body, fly body. Okay, just run.
Project 2025, calling for the end of gay marriage, gender expression, and a surveillance state on citizens, and way more.
It's an incredible honor to be here tonight to celebrate this really wonderful foundation. Just a few months from now, you will mark the 45th anniversary of this esteemed institution. For nearly a half a century, you have been titans in the fight to defend, promote, and preserve our great American heritage. I also want to express my appreciation to the great Steve Moore, who is with us tonight. Steve, where's Steve? Steve has been fantastic. We've been working long and hard together. We're thrilled to be joined by many distinguished guests, including Senator Joni Ernst and Congressman Ron DeSantis. Please stand up. Where's Ron? Ron DeSantis. Thank you, Ron, for everything, and thank you, Joni.
Now, to be fair, Trump said in a post that he, quote, knows nothing about Project 2025 or who is behind it. He also said in the same exact post that he only disagrees with some of the things that they said in the manifesto, but yet he wishes them luck with anything they do. But you should know that Trump's past and current team members are the ones that wrote Project 2025, and Trump's super PAC promotes it. Trump's national campaign press secretary even appears in the recruitment video for Project 2025. But maybe Trump supporters will say that Trump himself doesn't agree with any of the people that he hires or surrounds himself with. And Trump might say that we're taking that tweet out of context. So let's go back and see if Donald himself actually knows nothing about Project 2025, perhaps to a Heritage Foundation speech he gave as it was being written by his own team members.
Heritage does such an incredible job, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America, and that's coming. That's coming.
But Trump supporters will overlook all of this and say this anyway.
I have a gay son, and I know that in his heart he feels the Republican Party doesn't embrace his lifestyle, but we do. We love him.
His supporters will also mention, as they did in this opinion piece I mentioned a moment ago, that Trump is, quote, likely even the first private club owner in Palm Beach, Florida, to admit an openly gay couple. But they never mention any source for this info, and all they're saying is he's likely the first. They're not even 100% certain about their own facts, let alone real facts. More importantly, the opinion writer in this piece is getting oddly specific in order to find evidence that Trump is an ally. Like, maybe if he was the first hotel owner in the country to do so, that would be an accomplishment. But private club owners only in Palm Beach, Florida, yeah, Sorry, that's not much of an accomplishment, bro. See, the more specific you get, the easier it is to give yourself an award. For example, Trump easily won the oldest presidential candidate, who's been impeached twice, convicted of 34 felonies, been the perpetrator of sexual assault on countless women, 3-time married and 3-time cheater, sexually attracted to his own daughter, but not that one, the other one, reality TV star famous for firing people, and billionaire who's not really a billionaire. See, it's easy to win awards when you make it oddly specific to one person.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to disagree that all of that was true. You know, because as my right as an American, I have to, well, I'm not really an American. I'm more of a Missourian. Because I don't want to be American, but that's all because of fucking Joe Biden. So, guy you put into office.
Even so, good job, Donald. He let a gay couple stay at his resort, a gay couple who could afford to stay there, and Trump made a profit from. So apparently taking money from a customer is an accomplishment worth rewarding now. If we get awards for having gay customers, I guess I, as the owner of ProfessorPride.com Pride Store, would get a wall full of trophies, right? Another of their bullet points is that when he was president in 2019, Trump directed the Department of Health to provide medications to uninsured HIV patients. But you should know that in 2017, Trump directed millions of dollars of funding to be cut from HIV and AIDS research. So this move in 2019 was only reinstating what was already there before Trump himself cut that same funding 2 years earlier. And I'm sure this reinstating of funding had nothing to do with the announcement from the CDC just 1 month earlier in 2019 that the number of straight people diagnosed with HIV and AIDS outnumbered the amount of LGBTQ people diagnosed with the same disease for the first time in history. So this really wasn't to help our community as much as it was to help straight people. In that respect, Trump is pretty equal with Reagan, who only started researching HIV after he learned a straight person got the disease. Up until then, he didn't care how many gay people died from it because he was another of history's worst homophobes. By the way, that 2016 RNC speech, the acceptance of a gay customer, and the reinstating of HIV research funding are the totality of the arguments Trump supporters make for why Trump should be considered an ally of our community. None of them make any sense or show that Trump is actually an ally, but try to convince a Trump supporter that their argument doesn't make any sense. It's like convincing Donald Trump that Adolf Hitler was a bad guy. Oh wait, Trump literally said that Hitler, and I quote, did some good things. That's at least 100 points on the scoreboard, right? Anyway,
Where did he say that? I don't think he said that at all. Your source? Yeah, you didn't put one. You didn't put... What's... Hold on, did I miss it?
Sense. It's like convincing Donald Trump that Adolf Hitler was a bad guy. Oh wait, Trump literally said that Hitler, and I quote, did...
I think you kind of made that up. It kind of looks made up.
Some good things. That's at least 100 points on the scoreboard, right? Anyway, I would counter those arguments with Trump's actions, because we all know that Trump lies all the time. So anything he says cannot be believed. We have to go by his actions to see where he truly lands on a scale of ally or Nazi. I mean, if we just go by what he said, we would have to point out how Trump was asked what he thought about neo-Nazis fighting people in the streets on U.S. soil, and he said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. And I'm guessing Trump supporters want to forget that ever happened, so let's talk about Trump's actions instead. Just 2 hours into his presidential...
Surprising that didn't make it in 200.
Term in 2017, all mention of LGBTQ people and causes were removed from the White House website. Just 3 days later, his administration got rid of any mention of LGBTQ American history on the State Department website. On January 31st of that year, he nominated a notoriously anti-LGBTQ judge to the Supreme Court on the recommendation of the Heritage Foundation. 1 month into his presidential term, he revoked the direction to the Department of Education to uphold transgender students' right to express their gender identity in school. By March, he directed the Department of Housing and Urban Development to get rid of any protections for LGBTQ people in homeless shelters across the country. That same month, he amended 2 elderly surveys to get rid of questions about sexual orientation, which would later negatively impact the elderly people in our community through less funding and research to help them. Speaking of surveys, he also struck down any mention of sexual orientation or gender identity on the 2020 census, so all of our community would suffer the next 10 years being underrepresented and not counted. In May 2017, Trump signed an executive order allowing his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to create a license to discriminate against women and LGBTQ people in the federal government, and his Secretary of Education was asked if the department would protect LGBTQ students, and she refused to answer the question, just like all outspoken LGBTQ allies refuse to answer questions. By July, Trump banned all transgender people from serving openly in the military and discharged more than 15,000 active service members who were trans. In response to this, 56 generals and admirals in the military and 140 members of the House of Representatives released a statement condemning Trump's move, saying it would degrade the military's readiness to respond. In September 2017, Trump rescinded guidance to schools on addressing sexual harassment and sexual violence in school, which disproportionately affects LGBTQ students. His administration said it will not use its power to protect these students from harassment or sexual violence. By October, Trump sent a memo to federal lawyers instructing them to get rid of any Civil Rights Act protections to transgender people, instructing them to adopt the position in all pending and future matters. Trump also used his time in October to openly joke about Mike Pence's desire to hang and murder all gay people. In December, his administration told the American public that businesses should be allowed to hang signs outside their stores to openly discriminate and refuse service to LGBTQ people. His administration also banned the use of the words transgender, fetus, vulnerable, entitlement, diversity, evidence-based, and science-based from being used by the CDC. Because if there's one thing you don't want the Center for Disease Control to say, it's science or evidence. 1 year into office, Trump launched the Division of Conscience and Religious Freedom, which enabled discrimination. Because if there's one thing you don't want LGBTQ people, women, and others in the HHS. In February of 2018, he refused to sign a statement in support of an Inter-American Court of Human Rights ruling on marriage equality and transgender rights. That same month, Trump's administration made the announcement that they will refuse to respond to civil rights complaints filed by transgender students. By March, his Secretary of Housing, Ben Carson, testified before the House Appropriations Committee and admitted that the Trump administration was delaying resources protecting LGBTQ people in homeless shelters. In May 2018, Trump ordered the Bureau of Prisons to use biological sex to determine how trans prisoners were assigned housing, putting them at significant risk of sexual abuse, assault, and discrimination. By July, Trump then nominated the second Heritage Foundation judge to the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, who is notoriously anti-LGBTQ. Trump also took this month to create a taxpayer-funded religious liberty task force to openly find more ways to discriminate against LGBTQ people. To this day, they never released what their budget was, which anti-LGBTQ groups got funding from the taxpayers, and what the full scope of the task force was. 2 months later, his administration spoke at the Values Voter Summit in Washington, D.C., alongside conversion therapy advocates and speakers who openly call themselves Nazis. Just 1 month after that, they announced that they would redefine sex in law to exclude LGBTQ couples and people. In November 2018, Trump's team proposed a change to Title IX, which would suppress the voices of survivors of rape and sexual assault, which we find fitting for a man like Trump to suppress, considering he committed sexual assault to countless women during his lifetime. That same month, Trump condemned the 4-H youth organization for welcoming LGBTQ participants. In March 2019, he also refused to join more than 30 countries condemning the ongoing anti-LGBTQ crimes against humanity by Russia against Chechnya, but Did we expect anything different from a Russian asset in the White House? A few months later, and Trump announced a final version of the regulation that would allow medical providers to cite their personal beliefs as their reason to refuse life-saving care for LGBTQ patients. He also announced that he would oppose the Equality Act, which would protect LGBTQ people from discrimination by the government. That same month, he proposed a major change to the Affordable Care Act, which removed any protections for LGBTQ people in healthcare programs and activities. By June, he prohibited any U.S. embassy from flying the rainbow pride flag during Pride Month. By August, Trump was calling on all federal agencies to get rid of non-discrimination protections for federal contractors based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. Trump also voiced his opinion that trans people should not be protected under sex discrimination laws during the same time, and he issued an executive order mandating that religious exemptions be applied on a historic level against LGBTQ people and women in the workplace. To Trump's credit, in September 2019, he addressed the United Nations and spoke of his work to stop the criminalization of homosexuality in other countries. But since he did not actually do anything up to that point to actually help decriminalize homosexuality, he didn't have very much to say, and that's when the UN learned Trump lies a lot even to them. By October, in arguments of Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia, Trump voiced his opinion that employers should be able to fire LGBTQ people based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. And in November, which is National Adoption Month, Trump directed the Department of Health that it should not allow LGBTQ people to adopt or receive federal funding for adopting a child. Oh, and in the same month, Trump hired former Florida DA Pam Bondi, who made her claim to fame fighting a same-sex marriage ruling by a federal judge, which resulted in the taxpayers paying $500,000 for the ruling in a gay couple's favor. Just 1 month later, Trump was welcoming the Hungarian and Brazilian governments to a conference, even though they are promoters of anti-LGBTQ policies. I guess he forgot about his promise to the UN to decriminalize homosexuality in those countries. 3 years into his term, Trump directed the Interior Department to get rid of any anti-discrimination guidelines for sexual orientation. He also directed 8 other rules.
Okay, I haven't said anything in a while so far, yeah, we're doomed. There's no changing this guy's mind. We honest, all the points, all the big pointers were from a speech where he hated gender-affirming care, for the right reasons.
Regulating that faith-based organizations be used as service providers of federally funded programs, bringing closer together the church and the state our founding fathers wanted separation from. After the COVID-19 pandemic started to ravage the states, Trump refused to open the Affordable Care Act back up.
Also, I'm forgetting about the notebook because right now I'm just playing with making Lego guns for him to use. So, no, I ain't writing all that down.
To those impacted. This includes 1 in 5 LGBTQ Americans who relied on the ACA for coverage. By June, Trump announced he rolled back civil rights protections in the ACA, which covered LGBTQ people, so we can no longer be covered at all. During Pride Month that year, he also directed the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice to restrict granting asylum to those seeking refuge in the U.S. because their home countries have anti-LGBTQ laws. This left thousands of LGBTQ people in danger in their home countries. And during a speech at the White House that same month, Trump falsely claimed that he developed a vaccine for AIDS. In August 2020, Trump's campaign was intentionally misgendering.
He probably thought it was, but then realized it wasn't before it was after it was too late. So, you might have almost got us, but we have our ways of knowing that you're lying out of your mouth.
Pennsylvania Health Secretary Dr. Rachel Levine, who helped Pennsylvania save millions of people's lives and just happens to be trans. By September, Trump nominated another Heritage Foundation member, Amy Coney Barrett, to the Supreme Court, who was outspoken on her arguments against marriage equality, trans rights, and reproductive rights. As many of you know, we in the LGBTQ community are constantly fighting against white supremacists and neo-Nazis. But then in his first presidential...
You still allowed a lot of those in your furry branch, you know.
Debate in 2020, Trump refused to denounce white supremacists and told them to
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
In October, his Department of Education added Sarah Perry, an outspoken anti-LGBTQ extremist, as co-chair of their new Diversity and Inclusion Council. That same month, Trump held a campaign event called Trump Pride in Phoenix, Arizona, where he invited anti-LGBTQ extremists to speak to the crowd. These keynote speakers included a man who claims the story of Stonewall riots is a lie, and another legislator who proposed a bill allowing businesses to discriminate against LGBTQ people. In one of his final days in office in January 2021, just after Trump incited an insurrection on the Capitol to overturn the election that he lost, Trump finalized a regulation that permitted the discrimination.
I'm pretty sure he didn't do that. He did not do that. He didn't cause June 6th, I think.
Against LGBTQ people, religious minorities, and women in programs related to foster care, adoption, HIV and STI prevention, youth homelessness, refugee resettlement, elderly care, and more. In total, Donald Trump enacted hundreds, if not thousands, of anti-LGBTQ executive orders, policies, rules, and directives during his short 4 years in office. Since leaving office, Trump has endorsed parts of Project 2025, and on his official campaign website tells us in his Agenda 47 plan that he plans to enact even more anti-LGBTQ policies if elected again. He once again is aligning himself with neo-Nazis and a vice presidential candidate who thinks that women should stay in abusive relationships, thinks marriage is between one man and one woman, and also endorsed Project 2025 just...
Second one was a good thing. Oh wait, we're 2 minutes closer from the end time, so I can go to the bathroom. Oh, I guess I'll have to end the video there, too.
This past month, I'm not kidding when I compare Trump to Hitler and Vance to Himmler. And sure, I might be biased here, because Trump is openly calling for the end of my marriage with my beautiful husband, joking about murdering me, and while he might say there's some... I might be biased here, because Trump is openly calling for the end of my marriage with my beautiful husband, joking about murdering me, and while he might say there are some very fine people on both sides, he's only aligning himself with one side, with Nazis. He's supported bans on books and education. He's called for a civil war during his convention for this very election. And after a while, no matter who you are or what you believe, watching a man not just routinely align himself and surround himself with Nazis, but defend them time and again, after a while, he's no different.
The last parts were kind of convincing until you, realize that this is coming from an unreliable guy, an unreliable narrator, so to speak.
Different than a Nazi himself. It doesn't matter if he calls himself that or not, and I cannot stress this enough, even considering Trump said Hitler did some good things, if you're friends with Nazis and defend them time and again, you're a Nazi too. So take it from Donald Trump's own vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, who probably f***ed the couch. Trump is the head of this snake, so he's Hitler 2.0. Please
the sexuality after a kitchen utensil.
Use the unbiased link in the description of this video to learn more about how to register to vote and the deadlines to do so. Please register to vote and vote this November, because democracy, LGBTQ rights women's rights, and so much more are on the line this November if Donald Trump gets in. So please make a plan to vote, take all of your friends to vote, and vote this November because our entire world depends on Donald Trump not getting in office. And for the love of RuPaul, please never call Donald Trump an ally ever again. If you'd like to support our show, check out ProfessorPride.com for hundreds of ways to show off your pride, including LGBTQ books, magnets, pins, umbrellas, digital downloads, and more. And special thanks to our members and loyal...
Yeah, I think that's the end of this video right now, so... Mosby in.